COVID-19 fund.
We must use our emergency fund in the CDF. Our women reps should use the emergency fund. We must look for those very vulnerable members of our society.
The legislators, however, rejected Treasury's proposal to slash 10 billion shillings from the National Government Constituency Development Fund, saying constituencies have almost exhausted their allocations. The process of concluding the approved estimates is now expected to end next week during consideration and approval of the Supplementary Appropriations Bill 2020.
Well, I told you that we want to cross over the Atlantic Ocean and go to the United States and talk about how the coronavirus pandemic is impacting the communities there and how it has disrupted business there. And also this coming at a time when, Kenya and the United States, they signed intentions to negotiate a bilateral free trade agreement. And actually, President Donald Trump forwarded the same documents to Congress. And so the issue is under consideration by the Congress. And then the COVID-19 happened. It's also good to note that the United States is Kenya's top source market for tourists. And in the year 2019, more than 245, for your information, is in Orlando in Florida, and
yes,
and Kia Simmons is in the state of North Carolina in the city of Charlotte. So I want to start with Kia. How has life changed since the coronavirus hit America sometimes in March?
Yes, it has drastically changed our situation here in Charlotte, North Carolina, Mecklenburg County. A lot of people have been affected by the COVID-19. And just to give you some numbers, as of last Saturday, we have 303 confirmed cases of the COVID-19 here in Charlotte. And just to be a bit more specific, out of that 303 confirmed cases, 130 of them are African Americans.
And North Carolina is one of the states, where movement of people has been curtailed in a bid to spread the coronavirus. How has business been affected by this partial lockdown?
Sure. Just like in Kenya, Kenya is basically ran by the small businesses. That is the same here in Charlotte, North Carolina. A lot of the small business owners are suffering because they're unable to open their businesses and they're unable to sustain themselves because of lack of money. And so a lot of businesses are also saying that when they do reopen, they're not going to be able to rehire a lot of their employees that they once had before. So a lot of people are being affected here in Mecklenburg County. In fact, the state is talking about reopening businesses so that they can open for 1 to 2 hours a day.
Mm-hmm. Very well. Tiffany, Florida has started to ease some restrictions and people have started to go to the beaches. Tell me this, how is life slowly coming back to some sort of normalcy after such a long stretch of a partial lockdown?
Yes, we are currently still on lockdown until April 30th, per the governor. But he has opened up the beaches. They opened up in Jacksonville the 18th. And Tuesday, they opened up a few more beaches in Sarasota. So I think we have a number of 12 beaches open now. And they're allowing five and below, groups of 5 and below to go there. They're not allowed to sunbathe and sit still, but you are allowed to exercise and get some, you're allowed to surf also. So activities only, not just sitting and standing. And they close it between the lunch hour of 2 to 3. Then they open it back up until basically sunset, and then we're allowed to come back in the morning. So they're just kind of letting us out the house slowly. Our businesses are still not open. We only have essential businesses open in Florida.
I mean, both of you are business and travel as well as tourism consultants. And I know in the past you have been trying to create an empire of African Americans, who are coming back to Africa seeking business opportunities. And I want to start with you, Tiffany. How has this been impacted by the virus?
The tourism business, well, it's at a standstill because we can't move out of the United States. However, in the background, African Americans are fed up how we're being treated, and they're putting their dotting their I's and crossing their T's to see how they can get relocation benefits in Africa, whether it be Kenya or any other countries that are accepting them. They're looking for land. They're looking for the process to relocate and how they can go from investments and stuff like that. They're ready to go. So once this lifts, I think it's going to be a blessing in disguise because it's giving them time to get organized.
Kia, before the pandemic, you were planning to bring a delegation of African Americans to Kenya, and then the pandemic happened and these had to be cancelled. How soon do you think you're likely to get back to business?
Well, for Worldviews, we are trying to get back to business as soon as possible, which is why we're here. We wanted to share the information so that you all are abreast of what's going on here in the States. But Worldviews plan to be in Kenya in October. As soon as Kenya allows us to return, we will be back in Kenya October the 3rd through the 19th with about 25 guests. And we do have people still right now during the COVID pandemic signing up for our Kenya trip, excited to come to Kenya. And we even have a client on this trip that is ready to relocate in December of this year to Kenya. So we will be assisting her with that. So we're super excited. Nothing has changed Worldviews.
I mean, 2019 was considered the year of return, where a lot of, African Americans had been planning to relocate back to the motherland, that is Africa. Tiffany, so far, how many people have decided to relocate to Africa, and how many more are willing?
How many more people are deciding to relocate?
Yeah.
Those numbers, well, I do know that it's 80% higher than 10 years ago. So it is a big rush right now in the culture and movement and travel and relocation for the African American community in travel and relocating. So we are in a climb, we're at our peak. We're definitely in the spirit and the moment to move and relocate. We need COVID to let us go so we can prove those numbers, basically. I think Ghana actually, how much did they bring in just for the year of the return with travel? It was $1.3 billion that they brought in just for the year 2018.
Last year, 2019, for the year of return, Ghana brought in $1.3 million just off of the African American diaspora. So that proves to us that the African American is ready to relocate, travel, and we find it important to come back to the continent because it is our birthright.
And when you engage, with your clients back there in North Carolina, Kia, what do they think about the measures, that Kenya has put in place to stop the spread of coronavirus?
I tell you what, Kenya is doing 100% better than the United States of America. I will put that out there. Every time we have so many Kenyan friends, and so we get all of the statistics throughout the week sent to us, and then we pass it on to our business partner. Shout out to Phil Scott of the African American News Channel, so that he can disseminate that information. But people here in Charlotte and the whole of the United States, as far as the African American is concerned, is super proud of what Kenya and how Kenya has handled it. I was recently in Kenya about 3.5 weeks ago, right before you guys shut your borders. Kenya Airways, kind of told us, hey, you got to go. When we came in, or when I came into the country, you guys were already screening us. And when I left the country, you screened us. And unfortunately, when I returned back to the United States, they had no screening at JFK Airport. And JFK is one of this is, yes, I'm telling the truth. I literally took a video of the airport so that I can show everybody that they had no screening, no pictures or no signs talking about coronavirus. In fact, when I went through the passport control, the woman who stamped my passport literally did not have on a gloves or a mask and just simply said, welcome home.
That sounds pretty much unbelievable there. Is it the same thing is the same thing happening in Florida, Tiffany?
Well, I won't say the same thing is happening in Florida because we're more of a tourist capital. They shut down Disney World, and Disney was one of the first things to shut down. So that's a major airport, MCO. Definitely have their COVID-19 protection up. We have the mask, the gloves. They even change them out every 12 hours from what I understand. So we're doing better. I can't say that they were that secure when Kia was traveling, but as of now, we're definitely locked down. They've pretty much ground all of our flights. I think we're at 60% ground. So not much, and we're not flying international at all. So we're only flying domestic.
Mm-hmm. And, everybody's looking at America and they're like, oh, goodness grief. I mean, how did the U.S. get to this point to become the epicenter of the coronavirus pandemic? I mean, with close to 50,000 deaths. I mean, this is quite scary. What are folks saying down there in Florida, where they all like to make merry and live a free life?
Well, see, in Florida or even in America, if we can hone in on the African-American community, it's 1 out of 3 people are dying. So 1 out of 3 of us, meaning it's 3 of us on there speaking right now, 1 of us would get it and they're dying from it is the thing. Not that they're just getting it and they're being cured from it. We're dying from it. And that's what we have to hone in Florida and understand that the widespread and the death toll, not who's getting it and who's recovering. So I'm staying in the house. I have not went to the beaches. I've only tuned into them on the news. We're staying protected down here. Disney still has not opened up. They were one of the first to close last month, and they're still not. And they also are still paying their employees, which is an awesome thing, which a lot of people are not, which the small businesses can't. The loan